my God, Becky.
Can Miss Becky please raise her hand, bro?
You better call Becky with the good hair.
Yo, what's good? It's your girl, Becky the Poet. Welcome to my podcast, Unspoken Words. We have special guests.
Hey, y'all. I'm Pretty Hurtz. What's up? What's up?
That's it? That's how you gonna tell them? What are you? Who are you? What do you do?
Pretty Hurtz. I'm a poet, Dallas-based poet, all-around artist. I like to do a lot of different things. I host events, empowerment, different women events. And, I like to go to events. I love the network.
So what is it about woman empowerment that just makes you want to just represent that?
I would say trying to lead by example, because as I was growing up, I didn't really have it, where I could look to someone else and, try to change things, do stuff differently. So I feel like we're better as one. So, society already puts women against each other, like culturally, all these different things we already have against ourselves. But
True.
we come together, it's amazing.
So go ahead. Do you have a piece ready to recite?
Oh, yes, I do, Becky.
All right. Whenever you're ready, you can go right ahead. What would you call this poem?
Okay, so this poem is called... Actually, this poem is untitled, actually.
Oh, okay. Those are the ones that get titles at the end.
Okay. I will always admire your beauty, your strength, the way you stood your ground, how you were fearless, always ready for war, the strongest woman I ever knew, thrusting past every obstacle with ease, very courageous, heroic, running to everyone's rescue, but why did no one attempt to save you? Born into dysfunction, drenched in pain, sacrifice yourself for those unworthy, the same people who once called your mother, betrayal still dripping fresh off their tongues, as each day, month, and year passes, they refuse to honor you, rushing into the arms of failure, constipated from not digesting the truth, taught me how to be survivor instead of victim, prepared me to adjust my crown before yours lowered into your casket, secretly sending messages, ensuring me I'm becoming the woman you raised me to be. But I swear, after a rough day, when you're too broken, too defeated, feeling like you might not make it, all I can hear is your advice telling me I was born target, that this tongue and voice be powerful but deadly. My heart yearns for you, and I miss you. I will always love you. You see, you will forever empower me.
Ooh. So what was the whole motivation behind that?
It was a piece that I did my grandmother that passed away.
Oh, okay. I knew it was dedicated to somebody.
Yeah.
So an inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. That's real. That's really real. Speaking of real, for this episode, you guys, it's called "How to Be Authentic When It Comes to Poetry." And I know, as poets, we always talk about some shit that are going on in our life. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I feel like we can hide behind it.
Yeah.
We can ignore it. So, when it comes down to your poems, are you always being authentic as possible?
I actually just started, and sidebar, but I listen to your podcast, and
right.
It's an episode where you talk about, writer's block and writer's block, and I forgot who you had as the guest, but they were saying it's just always, sometimes it's stuff that you're hiding from. Mm-hmm. When you don't want to write,
right.
And I experienced that, and that piece specifically, I recently wrote it for one of my events. It was empowerment, what inspired you. So I wrote that. I wrote that for that event. So and I had to really sit there with myself, because it's a piece I started, but I always stop. And so now I'm just stop doing that. I just hate the awkwardness sometimes. At the show, somebody come up and they just, I guess, take it as free game to start talking. It's that was personal. I wrote it to get through it. But
what do you mean free game?
They'll come up and just, they'll listen to the poem what happened, and I'm sorry they died, or whether you're talking about depression, suicide.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just, you kind of get, I don't know if you ever get used to it. I guess eventually we may. I don't know, but it's just kind of awkward sometimes. That's what I fear.
You fear people knowing what you're going through? Is that what it is?
Because I'm I wrote it, you wrote it in a poem. That's why it took me the longest to even get on stage. But it is therapeutic, I get that aspect, but they just see it as you're open to just keep talking about it. I feel they'll come up to you and you have this, you know, whether it's like, not saying that I did, but just, for example, like when I'm talking about depression or suicide, and they're like, oh, so what made you? You just having this 30-minute conversation about it. It's like,
Yeah, that is true. And then people sometimes make you feel like you shouldn't have felt that way, or
they're like, you should go to church. You know, you try to tell you.
Yeah, and then honestly, like I always tell people all the time, like when it comes down to my poems and stuff, like I probably after going through it, I probably am already through the situation.
Right. When
I perform it, if I haven't performed it yet, then I'm not ready to like let everybody know. But also, like I don't ever get people. I've never had somebody be like, well, I had one lady, and that's why I changed the way I write my poems after that lady. She was just telling me like how I needed to go to therapist or whatever, and I was like,
yeah, that's
that's
a lot. Yeah, I actually had that happen to me.
But you know, at the end of the day, like that's why I rewrite my poems. That's why I tell people all the time, like I don't ever tell people exactly. I'm never raw, and that's one thing. I try to learn how to be, but at the end of the day, like that's just not how it's not my poetic like performance mind. Like, I would never ever like perform certain poems because of myself and just like who the crowd is, and does the crowd really need that? Yeah,
because depending on the event, it could cause like, wow, that was the go to open mic and everybody, their poems going this way, and you get up there, and whether they don't want to listen or they do listen, they're looking at you like, wow, she okay?
But you do run into the problem of like, you could like kill the vibe.
Yeah.
And that's definitely one thing. Like open mics kind of scare me a little bit now because we have open mics, like especially Dallas Black Canvas. You know, I love Dallas Black Canvas. It's always amazing. It's always lit. But I don't want to go read my poems up there because I feel like I write a lot of sad poems, and I'm like, it doesn't fit the
music.
vibe.
Is up tempo.
So
like,
I'd rather just keep it to myself and let other people go and just enjoy what they create, because at the same time, like, it helps me create more, and also like it allows me to, I guess, deal with what I've been going through if I'm going through anything at that time. But coming from you, how would you tell a poet how to be real when it comes down to writing their poetry?
I would say just don't go away from like writing what you really feel, what you think, because they really do help. Because there's been times where I try to do something else because I don't want to write. Like, I want to write, but I'm like, no, I don't want to say that. Don't say that. And it's like you keep censoring yourself and you don't get the poem that you're looking for, like, that you need to get out. And you just keep running from it. And you're writing to be, a lot of people write, for the popularity, the topics. Like, just be yourself. Don't sit down. A lot of people, they slam now, and they do it for all the wrong reasons. Like, don't write about stuff. Don't force yourself to write about something. Just get it out, whatever it is, and they'll help you get through it.
Right. I think one thing is too, I remember I used to listen to a lot of poems on YouTube that are political.
Yeah.
And I always like, man, I want to write something like this, so I tried it. But I'm not invested into anything like related to politics or the news. Right. So like when I was writing the poem, you could tell that I was like trying too hard. And I think I performed one poem, and I was like, man, I don't like the way it sounds. So never again did I perform it, and I just like scratched it because I was like,
So you performed a political poem?
I gotta
hear that.
I deleted that.
I trashed it, like trashed
it because I was like, man, like, it's because like I think I was writing a poem about like not very political, but like related to like my household.
Yeah.
And then kind of like how I think I was talking about like the racism within our culture, but then like it just turned out to be something. It could have been offensive, maybe to people who didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And it was like, if I really have to explain the background then there's no.
It's the wrong.
Because like even in our culture, like skin tone is a really big thing. So like I have a darker skin tone than most of my family members, and so like they make like dark jokes about me, And I think I wrote about that. I don't feel bad that they do.
Yeah.
But it was just like how it was just kind of trying to explain how like racism runs into like every culture.
Right.
You know, and how like it's still not cool at the end. But as I was writing, I was like, this isn't me. This isn't who I am. I couldn't make it feel real to me.
Right.
You know, I feel like it was just words I put on paper and try to rhyme.
Right.
But
yeah, because they do, and then you can also get boxed in, like forcing yourself to write about certain stuff because of whatever, and it's like, and then you end up getting labeled as like the love poet, the writing. You know, I would say like politically, or I don't know. Some people, you know, the crowd would be like racist,
right?
Get mad, like
right.
charging,
or you can get like made fun of.
Yeah,
like, oh, somebody's trying to talk about the issues, but really ain't really talking about it. You know, it can feel like any kind of way. But at the end of the day, like, I felt like sometimes there are poets for certain things.
Mm-hmm,
you know, I'm not the poet for the political stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I've seen a lot of like poets on like bum poetry who talk about like their Asian culture, how like their household was this and how their family came from this. And like I have stories like that in my family. Like my grandpa took all his kids on a raft to Vietnam, and sponsors, and like we waiting for sponsors. My mom and her sister got separated into camps. Like I have stories like that, but it's like I don't know how to put that into a poem,
right?
Because it's not one of those things that like it's talked about in the family, but it's not something that like we're like just as we get older, just taught to like live a better life than our parents, and like take care of their parents when we get older.
Yeah, I think as you keep going on, you'll grow into that,
the realness of everything.
Tap into your full, soak it in instead of you'll soak it in instead of, because I did that. I was like, I'm not, I don't want to, and now I'm being a little bit more open. I'm like, okay, and it's like you said, we're our biggest critics, so it's like, I don't know, am I gonna sound weird? And it's like, and I still feel like that. And then when somebody hears it, they're like, oh wow, and I'm like, but you just feel weird when you're writing it. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I guess it's inside our own head.
Like the other day, my friend, she's an instrument, like she plays instruments, and she was playing this song. Couldn't relate. It was a rapper, Nipsey Hussle song, and I couldn't relate because I never listened to Nipsey Hussle like that.
Right.
And so I remember one of my previous podcasts, I was like, I hate when people like when I ask them for their opinion for my poem, they'd be like, well, it was good. Well, that's what I did to her. And she was like, that's it? And I was like, well, in all honesty, I can't critique you because I don't know anything about that culture. So I can't be real with you.
Yeah.
You know? I can lie, be like, yeah, that's good, that's great. Like, yeah, this was dope. But it's like, in all honesty, like, I'm not being real with you. Right. And I think that's what, like, when it comes down to poetry, like, you can tell it how it is, or you can ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes, like, there's such thing as like fake hurt.
Right.
People will create this like story for people to feel bad for them and stuff like that.
Right.
And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes you can't even distinguish fake hurt from real hurt, because
especially slams.
Sometimes real hurt is like hilarious, like hysterical hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's hurting, but it's like the way they handle like in a hysterical way.
Right.
And then I've never been to a slam, so you can tell me about
slams.
Been to a slam? I've been to a couple of slams, like the doc, but like I've never been to like a real ass slam. So like tell me like what happens in a slam and how like sometimes the authenticity could be like altered.
Yeah, I used to go to a lot, like to Heroes, Dallas Poetry Slam. I used to go. Actually, last year went to the Women of the World Poetry Slam, and that was dope. So
that's a big event that I've always wanted to go to, and
apparently I guess they're not doing it no more. So this whole thing happened with the Nationals. I don't know, but yeah. So all the poets not going out to that no more. I don't know what they're gonna do to replace that. But
wait, what happened? I want to know. I want to know the tea.
It was a lot of drama I was following last year. They were like people getting fired on the spot, all type of stuff, and I think money wise too, because everybody got to put up their own money to go out, and all this stuff where the money was going. Yeah, so
that's what happens.
Yeah, get lost. Because as poetry become bigger, as if like other sports and all that.
People want an income.
Yeah, it's like okay,
people don't want to put no income
just
in.
to slam for the money. And,
True.
But yeah, I see that. And that's why, like I was listening to Jonathan say, you popped up out of nowhere. That's kind of how I always went to like Heroes. It's like 2011, 2012, and that's actually where I met Masterpiece a long time ago. She was like, you should get on stage, and I didn't listen to last year, so so I finally went up there when I did Poet University, but I was just scared to read it out loud. Like I would go and I would be the judge and stuff, but A lot of people just slam just for the claps, for the hype, just to become popular.
Sometimes for the money.
Yeah, and the money. You can feel it. It's like you writing it. You keep your agenda to keep pushing this, and then you meet that person like outside of the poetry scene, like their real life, and they'll tell you like, "Oh, I just write that," and their life is totally different from what they, they just. I'm like, how can you write? Me personally, I can't do that. I can't just write something that has nothing to do with. I don't know. It's weird that I don't have any. I don't see how they write from a view that they never went through at all.
Oh, like kind of like. You know how we on Twitter a lot, so we talk about how we have struggles and stuff, but in all reality some of us came from like with no struggles, right?
And they're like, okay, I'm gonna do this poem, I'm gonna win the slam, I'm gonna get 10s, so I'm gonna go talk about this, and I'm like, or a lot of the police brutality, a lot of stuff people write specifically and do those poems because they know that it's gonna score well, the audience is gonna feel it. It's gonna get people amped up.
Now you just doing it for like, I guess the marketing chance, like of now it turns into instead of keeping it like a passion, real, you taking it to where the money's at. Oh dang, I didn't know how they was doing that.
That happens a lot, yeah. It's like
wow, that's new to me because honestly,
I don't write like that. I don't do that.
No, that's very interesting, and that's actually really real because to be honest, like. People talk about just society's issues, right? But some people, I feel like in their voice, you could just tell, like, they're just not all about that.
Right.
And then they just write about it and just perform it. And it happens to be, like, one of their good, like, it's those people who can do things without having to practice too much.
Yeah.
And those are the people who I kind of envy. Because it's like, man, it takes me like a whole month to memorize a poem. Let alone right now, I haven't been practicing. So I've been like improv, and doing a lot of improv a lot. But it's just like, it's crazy.
Because they step up to the mic, they step back, dramatic effect, and then just put this angry face on and do the poem the whole way angry. It's like me, I go with the flow, like how I feel. I can't just fake hurt, fake anger, for the crowd intensity,
I'll tell you this. One time I was in second grade. I don't even know why I shared this. When my grandpa had passed away, and I think it happened like a month ago, whatever. When I was in second grade, but I was still hurt because it was a young age to know about death. And then I remember this girl, Hispanic girl, was in the restroom. Was like, she lied about her grandpa. And I'm like. Well, what I got a lot about?
Right.
Wow, you think I want attention? But at that moment in time, like, I felt I needed to share that with the class for some reason. But in second grade, like, you don't know anything about personal space or what belongs to your family, whatever. It's like that. So it was just like, freaking second grade just wanted somebody to talk to, I guess.
Just needed to get it out.
And I started crying too, and I was like, man. And so every time, like, this is why I feel so funny. Every time I cry at my event, like, it's because I choose to read poems that I don't normally ever write about or talk about or nor let alone address the issue about. And I always think it's a good, I guess, just for me to be real, doing a live show and hosting it to the point where I always cry and I'm like, man, I learned to just stop.
I came to your podcast anniversary.
Yeah, that was like,
I was like, oh,
that was my second time I cried. I told myself I'm never writing ever again about like family or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't write. The only thing I can't write about is like I don't write about love because, I don't know, like I'm just not a love poet person.
Yeah.
And then I can't write about family; it's just too emotional.
Because then you could turn sour, like you could turn to like a woman bashing, men bashing. Like,
and
just
also,
hurt poet.
and I don't have like the whole. Like, I know the whole phases of a relationship, but it's just like those. I think those are redundant to me because you know how it goes. Like something happens in the poem. Like either he cheated, she cheated, she left with somebody else. Like somebody, it's not really a climax. Or people already knows what's going on.
It's like a reality show in a poem.
Exactly. So if you were to give a 3-step lesson to a poet who is just beginning, how would you what was the 1, 2, 3 things you would tell them to how to be real when writing their poem?
I I would say, like I said, just never push away or think too heavily like what people think about you. Just write whatever comes to your mind and your heart. So start there, and then if you want to like do something with your poetry, I would say, just practice, test it out, and don't be scared to just try everywhere, go everywhere. Don't confine yourself to certain spaces. You might find where you fit in at, I would say.
I like that tip, actually, because I went to school out in Fort Worth in college, and I ran into the Doc open mic, and I thought that was the only open mic out here in Dallas, Fort Worth area. Then I ran to another one, and I like the vibe with the Doc, but I ran to another one. It was not my crowd.
Yeah.
I performed there once, and I was like, I don't like the energy of it. Mm-hmm. Then I ran into Heroes, but I never attended Heroes. I ran into the Dallas Poetry Slam team at the art festival.
Okay.
I like that energy because I feel like they read poems for anybody and everybody. So that was really relatable. Then I didn't know any more else about the poetry scene. Then I ran into Dallas Black Canvas from a friend. I thought that was dope. So, in my opinion, the best open mic I've been to is Dallas Black Canvas. I mean, and the reason why I said it because I like the vibe. Yeah. I feel like the host does a really good job at keeping things flowing. I like the respect that comes on the mic. I like that everybody's always clapping and there's hardly ever dead air. Right. I like the respect that the crowd pays. I know it's hard to maintain a large audience, but they do a really good job. I love the music that DJ GS plays, so I just love everything about it. Right. It just fits the mood to me. It's I like it dark. I like my poetry scenes dark. Right. I don't have that ambiance, So I agree. Try different open mics. There's a lot. Everybody is hosting one. Yeah, there's a lot of poetry events.
Eventbrite, Facebook. People, I see you everywhere, and I'm like,
if you meet one poet, just ask a question. Yeah. Yo, what are the scenes?
It helps the network, man.
I'll be real with you guys. You guys been in my DMs asking me about how to step into this poetry world, and the only thing I can tell you guys is to just keep up to date with people's Instagram. I post a lot of events of other people on there. I can't always send you the links. I can't always do this because it's one of those things it's already posted. So just be on the lookout. If I send you a couple links, follow through with that person next. Right. Because at the end of the day, what I'm going to start doing is I'm not getting more free game no more, man. You have to work for it. You can't. I just don't. And the reason why is because I feel like I worked hard to get where I am and take Unspoken Words to where it is now. And then people come in and just want to slide through. Right.
Especially you send them stuff or advice and you
never
see them
where
you're at.
It's I've been helping you. I've gave you advice. And it's what else do you want from me? Right. So it's take what I
gotta
have
want it.
And just do it, and just actually do it. And that's the first thing to everything in life. Just take that first step to do it. You may fail 50 times. You may do it wrong. You may look crazy. Yeah. But once you find your whatever, it's easier that way. So don't ever think of us like somebody else not trying to help you. Just take it as they're busy. Take it as that they gave you all the resources. I have friends who are doing great things, and I attend most of their events because, I know I ask a lot of questions, and they get to the point where, well, Becky, here's to go to my workshop. So I go to their workshops, So it's support people that way, because if you support your friends, you never know what your friends can do for you.
Exactly.
And nowadays, since everybody has a business now, it's hard to manage friends. It's hard to keep up with everybody. We all focus on ourselves. And sometimes people like me who don't focus on themselves, we run into the problems of, never progressing or slowly progressing. So take the free game that we give you, especially in my podcast. Each episode, you always give free something. You know,
I listen, like I'm telling you, like seriously, I binged your podcast. I'm like, man, it's dope. Even before I met you in person, you had a online presence, you know, you knew, so like, you know, everybody. And I listened to your podcast and it was very therapeutic and it helped me get through a lot of different things. I was like, okay, she knows what she's talking about. And you know, at one point you were second guessing yourself, and I'm listening like, why is she second guessing herself? Like, does she know how many people are going through this that needs to hear this? You know, like you was talking about giving up, and it's a lot of people. You'd be surprised who all over the world, you know, city, listening, and they're like, I've been thinking about this, and they probably been scared to go ask their friend or somebody close to them.
Yeah,
and they heard it.
I mean, you know, since this is May, when this is going to be released, you know, it's mental health awareness. And honestly, I don't like to talk about mental health awareness because it could get long, really long. So I like to break it up into different categories or smaller subcategories. But, you know, if you're going through something, you know, there's always somebody willing to listen. Mm-hmm. But the only problem is you have to be willing to accept what they say to you.
Right.
And because we go through things in life differently, we may not have the best advice for the person who's going through whatever. Mm-hmm. For me, you know, I went through a dark time, and there are some people's advice I'll never ask them anymore. Right. And people come to me for advice, and sometimes like I'm not I don't have empathy like that. Mm-hmm. So my advice is like straightforward, like freaking change your mindset. You know, like I'll tell you real like up front like what I like grew up to and what like worked for me. At the same time, like I had to find my own way.
Right.
So like just pay attention to what people say. You don't ever have to take anybody advice like full on. You can take whatever you want. Right. And just rock with it. I mean, at the end of the day, as a poet, as an artist, as a regular person who's not really doing anything, I mean, that's wrong. Who's not really doing anything creative, you know, just take your first mind sometimes and then take pieces of other people's mind and put it to work. I mean, that's how real poetry begins, real music, real everything. Because you can tell when somebody is doing a business and they're fronting about it. Mm-hmm. And you can tell that sometimes people have businesses out here who are just taking the money.
Right. And
saying it's for a good cause or whatever. And that's like, no, like, that's not cool for one.
Right, new age pimping.
And God is watching.
Right.
And other people's watching. That's why sometimes, you know,
get caught out here being fake, you know, get caught up.
And that's a disappointment. Yeah. You get caught.
You have fans and it's
you
like,
just
wow.
disappointed 2,000 people that follows you on the gram. You just disappointed all these people who donated or sponsored you. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't want to be that person. But anyways, you guys, we have Pretty Hurtz here.
Yes, Pretty Hurtz. Y'all can follow me on Instagram at Miss Pretty Hurtz. That's MSPRETTYHURTZ.
I thought it was MZ.
Mm-mm. Z at the end. Yeah. Somebody stole my original name. But.
Oh, okay. I know this is launching out in May, the second week of May. Do you have any events ahead?
Well, actually, coming up in May, on May 18th, I'm doing the Malcolm X Festival. I'll be performing there.
Where is it at?
It's going to be at Friendship West. And then the actual following day, for the culture, the For Better Brunch, I'll be performing there as well.
And if you want to keep up with all of this, go ahead and follow her on Instagram. More in Dallas always is posting events. So just keep up with everybody on Instagram. And there's always something to do in Dallas. Don't ever feel like there's nothing to do. And don't ever say Dallas is boring, because you're not out here trying to hustle out here in Dallas. All right, y'all, we out.